Now then, Dmitri, you know how we've always talked about the possibility of something going wrong with the bomb. Well, now, what happened is one of our base commanders, he had a sort of, well, he went a little funny in the head. You know, just a little funny. And he went and did a silly thing.
Planned Parenthood was made by Margaret Sanger, a known eugenics with the KKK, to control the Jew population. When I say Jew, I mean the 12 lost tribes of Judah, the blood of Christ, who the race, the people known as the race black.
Well, listen, how do you think I feel about it? Can you imagine how I feel about it, Dmitri?
We'll meet again.
As far as what his opinion is it's kind of less important than what the social or political effect of a black guy in his position making remarks like this, coming out, for example, coming out in the defense of whites, making remarks that are could be interpreted as anti-Semitic. But again, it's more complex than that, because it sounds like he's coming from a kind of theological or religious perspective when he's talking about being a Jew.
Yeah.
He is from the inner city, though, in Chicago, presumably. Is that correct?
Yes. He was born in Atlanta and he grew up in South Chicago. Yes.
So he comes from a relatively poor inner city.
Well, yes and no. His father,
middle class.
yes and no. His father does seem interesting. His mother was into the arts and was a professor, I believe, at Chicago State University, where he attended for 1 year before dropping out to become a professional musician. So it's a little more complicated. He's not, and you see this a lot. He's not exactly just like straight from the hood, and he doesn't know his father and his mother was on welfare or something. That's wrong about Kanye. I think he thinks more highly of himself as well. He's probably been around people who are political thinkers like his father. He had an estranged relationship with his father, but then in this interview, you see all this outreach to his father and demeaning his mother as surrounded by liberals and kind of brainwashed in this way. But so very interesting. But I think it's also safe to say that he wasn't just around people who were selling drugs or working part-time or whatever. I think he was actually around people and he's imbibed stuff from them that was political and kind of serious and philosophical and so on. And I think that's actually kind of added to his outspokenness and kind of curious personality.
And I think there have been other rap stars too who have kind of bumped up against this as well, whether they've had like anti-Semitic lyrics or lyrics that could be interpreted as anti-Semitic, or have made statements that could be interpreted as anti-Semitic. I'm not thinking of them offhand, but it's happened in the past. So this is not the sort of first occurrence. But what it does reveal, though, is that the point that's being made is correct. And maybe it's becoming more of a taboo now, ostensibly, with the rise of Fox News and media that has been influenced by the 2006 alt-right. Maybe it is becoming more of a taboo to be anti-white gradually on some level. But it has long been a taboo to be anti-Jewish, of course. But even among blacks, which is interesting, right? So it's not, so the taboo exists both among whites. Whites are not allowed to be anti-Semitic. Jews are not, or rather, I mean, I guess Jews would be more allowed, but even Jews are not really allowed to be anti-Semitic. But blacks are not allowed to be anti-Semitic, right?
Yeah.
So that reveals, though, that there's a kind of hierarchy in this multiculturalism.
Yes.
There are some cows that are more sacred than other cows, and
Yeah.
blacks are a less sacred cow than Jews, as it turns out, right? And
Yeah, he was never called out for being mentally ill when he upstaged Taylor Swift or when he called out George W. Bush as a racist on national television at a time of kind of national mourning and unity in a way. He was not declared to be mentally ill. When he brought up this subject, he was declared to be mentally ill pretty overtly. And he's made comments about being manic depressive. I actually don't see that as his main problem, actually. And he said my manic depression is my superpower, and that might be the case where you know, not only are you depressed sometimes, we also have mania, and you can probably write an entire album in one of those manic episodes. But I actually don't think that's even the best way of describing his personality, and whether that's true or not, you know, remains to be seen. A lot of people self-diagnose and so on. But I mean, what interests me about all of this is that, you know, he did say DEFCON 3 or 5 or whatever. DEFCON 3, yes, whatever that means. I imagine DEFCON strikes me as a black metal concert. I think he was trying to allude to DEFCON, which is nuclear war. So he was going to go nuclear on the Jews. So, you know, when you read that first sentence, you know, it's God knows what he's planning, you know, Holocaust revisionism and quoting Kevin McDonald and William Pierce or whatever. I mean, that you could take that from the first sentence, but I think the second sentence is interesting. I can't be anti-Semitic, so he can't be anti-Jewish, which is what I think he really means, because I'm a Jew also. And he said also. So he's actually not claiming, at least ostensibly, that the Jews aren't the Jews. So I have heard that claim made by many people, that Hebrew Israelites that you find in Times Square, they think they are actually the Jews. These Jews who are here now are just usurpers, they're tricksters. We're the ones who our story is told in the Bible. I've also heard that claim from so-called Christian nationalists of a certain stripe. I don't think most people who adopt that term claim that now, but there is a certain type of Christian nationalist or Christian identity where the Anglo-Saxons are in fact the Jews of the Bible. And these Ashkenazi Jews are actually the Khazar converts. They weren't the original Jews. And again, you engage and there are a bunch of deceptors and tricksters and so on. So it's a kind of, I think it comes from this ambivalence and problem of being a Christian nationalist and an anti-Semite. So you hate the Jews. You think they're behind everything wrong with society. Hitler was right. But you're also a Christian, and thus well over half of the book that you have, you know, deemed to be the word of God is their story. So how do you reconcile this issue? And it's, well, they're not the real Jews. We are, or someone else is, or something. It strikes me as, you know, if you think about it like a personal situation where someone had a really bad father and was abused by their father and treated horribly or something, you could imagine them coping with that psychologically by claiming, well, you know, he wasn't my real father. You know, he just met my mother and he's a terrible guy, but my real father is somewhere else. Because you don't want to be kind of tainted by that. It's a understandable psychological coping mechanism. And I think Christian identity is a coping mechanism. You know, I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, the current people who are, you know, claim to be Jews or live in Israel or have Jewish identity of multiple kinds in the United States, they are the Jew. There is a coherent people. There is a line stretching from Abraham. I mean,
Yeah,
not
I mean,
you know what I mean?
literally-
Not exactly,
literally,
but from the ancient world to 2022, there is a coherent line there. And yeah, twists and turns here and there, but it is actually a coherent people. And you can't deal with that because you're both an anti-Semite and a Christian. And so you're going to come up with these fabulous tales to justify yourself. And so I think there might have been something to that. Clearly, Kanye has been exposed to some kind of Black Hebrew ideology. But he also said, so I'm kind of taking him at his word here, and I'm listening to other things also. And so what happened?
Honestly,
go ahead.
I could easily see the genesis of, because obviously he's dealt with Jews in the music industry, and presumably he has friends, if not many friends, that are Jews, right?
Yeah.
And so you could easily see Kanye high with some Jew, recording an album, and the Jew just saying, "Yeah, man, we're all Jews," or whatever. You're a Jew too, or whatever. You know what I mean? We're all God, or whatever, right? So that's we can imagine the sort of genesis of his particular theology, where he has friends who are Jews who he also thinks are legitimately Jews too, or right?
Well, I don't think that's it though. So
you think he's referencing a particular?
Yes,
theology?
I think he has thought through this. Now, do I think Kanye is highly intelligent? No. Do I think that he has a weird personality issue? I don't want to diagnose him at this point. Yes, I do. But I also think that despite it all, he is trying to say something. Like having an album called Christ is King is an attempt on his part, a sincere attempt to be a real Christian and to say something powerful in a Christian tradition. I think it was a genuine attempt. It wasn't just some gospel music. You can find gospel music and all sorts of pop songs. I don't think it means much of anything. For Kanye, it means actually quite a bit. And I think the also in that tweet, even though the tweet was grammatically lacking, I think it actually was meaningful. So after this controversy launched, so he was
Richard,
banned from Twitter.
I don't think that we should spend too much time speculating on the theology of Kanye West. I mean,
yes, we should.
Well, but
because it's real, you can take it.
Could ever be clearly deciphered, even if it is coherent, right?
Okay.
Like, has he left enough clues? And I haven't studied him closely enough.
Yes, he has. So,
right. So is your idea that he identifies as a Jew because of a conversion into Christianity? So through a Christianization, he becomes a Jew, or we become Jews through Christianity, which is
not exactly. Okay. Although I think that's
because he does
part of it.
Christian songs, right?
Yes. So after this controversy launched, someone at Fox News apparently leaked outtakes to Vice motherboard, which is, I actually don't know what that is. Some kind of Vice News thing. And they showed what had been taken out of this highly expansive and indulgent interview by Tucker Carlson. One of the funnier things that was taken out was that Kanye said that he was vaccinated.
And you set that question up. You have more information about about what happened in the hospitals. So, in all honesty, I don't have the most facts, as many facts.
No, I mean in your life, like
so I might have
the
deflected.
COVID vaccine, the being stuck inside. Like, what did you think of all that?
I was vaccinated,
and you could kind of tell that Tucker wanted to do one of these talking points of, the Democratic fascists are on to all of us and whatever. But Kanye actually is vaccinated, and that was cut, which is interesting. But there was actually some more interesting things that were cut. So first off, he claims that the black, as opposed to Jews are a people, they're not just a race. So he's kind of going against his father's apparent black nationalism and saying that, no, we need to think of ourselves as a people, and we are the blood of Christ. Because we are Jews, we are a tribe of Israel. So he's not exactly replacing the tribe of Judah or Jews as they are now.